Hey everyone, welcome back to the Above Board podcast. Today we have a special treat because we have the Brandon Hatcher joining us today. For those that don't know, he is the newest addition to our advisor team. He's been in the financial industry for 13 years, 5 of which as a financial advisor. He's married to his lovely wife, Katie, and they have 3 amazing children. And in case you're wondering, yes, Brandon has done 75 hard. It's actually a prerequisite to work with us these days, I think. Brandon, welcome to the show, buddy.
Hey, good to be here. Thanks for
You
having
like
me.
75 hard right out the gates?
Yeah, I like that right out the gates.
Let's
That was the requirement, right? Like I had to do it as part of my initiation.
let's tell the whole team we're starting tomorrow, day 1. What do you think
Oh
they'll say?
yeah, rolling right into Christmas. Great idea, John. I think everyone will massively fail that, including
Yeah.
myself.
Well, hey, I'm really happy for a lot of reasons that you're on the show today. But where do you want to begin? I want to talk a little bit about your story about joining us here at CandorPath. So I'm going to give you the floor for a moment. Also, I sound terrible, so for the audience, I apologize. So we're going to let Brandon do the talking so you don't have to listen to me do the talking. But where should we begin today, buddy?
Well, I think first of all, I think you sound great. So a
Thanks.
lot better than yesterday. And I think the best place to begin is I started listening to you a few years ago. So believe it or not, like your podcast has been a great recruitment tool, at least for one of the people on your team. So my wife, Katie, as you mentioned, she was hired by you guys a few years ago to do a project for you. At that time, she was an independent contractor, and she told me about this really awesome team she's been working with, and they do all the things that she's telling them to do. They're excited, they're young, they're just super ambitious about getting things done. And I was like, well, that's cool. What do they do? And she said, oh, they're a financial advisory firm. And I was like, well, okay, that's not a thing, because financial advisors don't love working together, right? Like it's just there's too much going on. And lo and behold, it was something that I looked you up. I jumped on your podcast, started listening from afar, and then I think that's kind of how our paths crossed. I sent you a message just saying, "Hey, want to meet? Wanted to learn from you," and then we started building rapport, and here I am.
Yeah, it is amazing how things like that happen. So props to you, Katie, for being the connection point.
Thanks, Katie.
And I think it only took us like 3 or 4 times to for Brandon to finally say yes when we tried to hire him. I think as we're building out the team, and I don't want this to be like a whole CandorPath conversation, but some of it can be. But as we're building out the team, like we care very much about the people that we're doing this alongside. So not only the clients that we're serving and how to best serve them in a way that is what we call unreasonably hospitable. I've got the Unreasonable Hospitality book sitting next to me here, but also doing it alongside folks that we enjoy working with. And the nice thing is that Brandon, I think you take very great care of the clients that you serve as like the main point of contact for, the main financial planner for, and we saw that in you. And so it's kind of exciting when you said yes to start working with us. And it's been, we're like 4 months in now, dude.
Yeah, we did.
4 months in.
We did. We actually just hit the 90-day mark, and I know that because I sat with Megan, and we just had our 90 days.
Yeah.
So it
So
went well.
one of the fun things that Brandon and I have been talking about is, for me, this goes back to a podcast that we did like years ago called The Power of Positive Aging. But this is a theme that's really important to Brandon is, because we do the money stuff, right? Like we get that, like that part's important, but there's so much more to the conversations that we have with the clients we serve, whether that's finding, your purpose, cause, and passion in retirement and so on. I think we're going to talk about that today, Brandon. Where should we begin?
Well, I would just like to start with reminding everyone that what is money? What does wealth really do? And I think of it as life fuel. It's what we use to fund our lives. And if we have done the right things in the right ways and we have plenty of money and we retire, well, now we have plenty of money and hopefully plenty of time, and we can use our abilities to do the things that we want to do in retirement. And for some people, they're quite young And for some people, they're a little bit older. So we do have to take that into consideration. So I would just, before we talk about anything, that's how I view money. That's how I have viewed money the entire time I've been helping people with their finances, is understanding what's important to them, what's their return on life going to look like. And then we can start to have the conversation with what's the return, where do we need to put those funds so that they can have the best return on life that they can have.
How do you, like, I'm curious when someone comes to you and says, hey, I'm looking for help with my investments. And I don't know that the average person is even necessarily thinking about that at first when they're meeting with a financial person. Or maybe they are. I don't know. But how do you kind of bridge to that part of the conversation?
I think I started right away. I try to get to know them. And I think this is why you and I got along so well. There wasn't this like bravado of, let me tell you how awesome I am or how awesome we are. And let me show you about our average return and how awesome our portfolio is. And it's like water cooler talk. It's not really, that should happen. We should be doing all the right things and we should be getting a great return on your investment. We should be in the different types of accounts that are going to keep you holding on to more of your money because we were tax efficient. Mm-hmm. And honestly, there are studies that are done every year. I think Vanguard puts one out, is what is the biggest impact that we as financial advisors get to do for our clients. And it's the coaching, it's the behavioral coaching component of it. And that has always stuck with me. And so I have that conversation as soon as we get started. I like to use this analogy. I had this amazing doctor who in Illinois, before we moved here to South Carolina, I go into the office and we sit down, and I'm assuming it's going to be like every other visit I've had with every other doctor always. And they're going to just sit there and not even look at me and just start clacking away at their computer. And it's going to be 20 minutes of and then gone, see you later. But she just sat down, she crossed her legs, and she just talked to me like a human being. And I really appreciated that. And that always also stuck with me. She got to know me, the person, before she even started looking at my chart, so that when we had conversations that were important to me, she could make, I think, the best informed decisions about what's important to me, my health, my family, my future, all that stuff. So it wasn't just, here's the things, here's the prescriptions I want you taking and things like that. So I've tried to always apply that same principle. You only get a chance to find out about someone really early on. So I try to use that time wisely to understand a client on a deep personal level, so that I can understand what is important to them and then where we need to go with navigating their financial future. And I think that's just responsible for us as financial advisors. And moreover too, dude, we're going to be with people, working with people for, if they'll have us their entire lifetime. I want to make sure that the life that we're helping them build is something that they're excited about as well. So I started right from the beginning.
Well said. I mean, it's a partnership that we have with these families that we serve, and I think that's a great point, that those conversations should be happening right as soon, as early as acceptable as possible. Mm-hmm. I always notice the temperature of individuals might be different. You kind of have to like test the waters to see how much they want to get into those types of things, but you're right. Like, you're not doing them a service if the goal is always just maximizing ROI, which, I mean, I get that. That's part of the metrics of what we need to be doing for people. But what's it all for?
Right.
What's the why? Do you have a favorite question that you maybe open with, or that you ask when you're having those conversations?
I like to slowly work up to the really big questions. I'm like softening them up, because I don't just want to get into it. I don't think we've built that rapport just yet.
Yeah.
But some of my favorite questions that I like to start, or I guess it's starting the conversation with, hey, this is really about getting to know you. This is a couch conversation. We're just sitting on the couch talking to one another. And it's important to me. And I say exactly what I just said to you to them. I say, this first conversation, it's going to be more talking about you. And if we're a good fit, and I mean that sincerely, because I want it to be a good fit. If it is, it should expose itself. We'll get into the finances. But before we even do that, let's take a step back. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, and then I want to hear mostly about you, what's important to you, and so on. And that I've noticed people, if I'm physically in front of them, they go, ah, you know, or they keep trying to jump into the finite details. John, every time I've ever done that and I've gone off kind of my script and I've let the client kind of direct that, tell me about this, tell me about that, it hasn't worked out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to be very firm with, like, listen, we will talk finances for the rest of our lives. Like
Mm-hmm.
that will just keep happening. Let's spend this time to get to know one another. And I'm okay with it taking maybe longer than it should. This is your time to talk to me about what's important to you. And I'm going to take notes and I'm going to remember those things. And that's a responsibility you also have to have. So I guess to answer your question on the roundabout way, what's a question I like to ask people is, well, here's a good hitter after I've kind of softened and we've kind of talked a little bit, is if they're married, I will say, what is your favorite thing? So for you, John, I would say, John, what is your favorite thing about Jackie?
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to listen. And I'll say the same thing for Jackie. Jackie, what's your favorite thing about John? Or I'll ask them about their love story. That's a fun one. Tell me about your love story. Like, how did you two find each other? And I love those little things. I'm kind of cheesy.
We have
It's the
a
holiday.
we have a video of that, by the way. There's our wedding videographer that we hired was a good
Mm-hmm.
friend of mine at the time, and he was like, "Hey, I'm doing this new thing where I I'll record like asking you questions, and you basically share your love story and like how you met."
Mm-hmm.
And we look back at it now and it's very cringy, but at the time it was like a fun thing that we did. So if you were to ask me that question, I would say, here's the Vimeo link of Jackie and I explaining our origin story.
That.
I think, yeah, I would say that so much of what we do, and maybe the average person doesn't necessarily realize this, or they get to know this in time and working with good financial professionals that act as fiduciaries and are doing things in their best interest, is there's a lot of almost like, you call it behavioral finance, but it's like financial therapy too. I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
there's,
Yeah.
if you think about it, besides your financial person, maybe your therapist, maybe your doctor, there's not many other people in your life that are professional services that you would hire that know so much intimate detail about you besides your financial planner. Like we get to hear the good and the bad, and you think about these relationships of families that we serve that we've known for a long time. You see them go through ups and downs, and health scares and family issues, and windfalls and good things that happen too. It's really quite an interesting relationship that I
It
think
is.
we get to build. And as you're kind of alluding to, and we're not doing folks a service if we're only talking about the finance stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And in some ways, John, it's even more impactful being their financial person,
Mm-hmm.
because we've all had clients that we've cried about, right? Like we've all had clients that we've either been excited or sad, or we hold on to that for better or worse. And we have a vested interest in people's financial future. Like if they do well, we share in that. And that's an amazing thing too, because you get to see someone go from where they were to where they're going. It's like 95% them, maybe 5% us, but that 5% feels important. And I love it. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's I think the good ones, like why I was so excited about joining your team or our team now, is that everyone shares that value. And that's important to me, is that whatever we do today, in some way, shape, or form, we're going to have the consequences to those decisions 10 years from now. So what are those consequences going to be? Are they going to be great, or are they going to be not so great? So, and we get to make that decision based on what we have in front of us today. So, and how
Yeah.
well we know our clients. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
important.
Well said. Well, and I mean, I talk about, how we operate as a team often, because I think it's hard for just one person to do all things well. So that's why we kind of deploy this team mentality. But I'm
Ensemble.
curious, since you just had your 90-day conversation, 90 days in, what's been your favorite thing about how we work as a team?
It's probably my favorite is how fun it is to in good spirits, like just to have fun, like just completely self-aware of some of the things. Like for instance, you and I were both not at the team meeting yesterday. We jumped on and it was brought up that wow, it's really quiet. We were virtual, right? Okay, we were virtual. But it was brought up how quiet it was without you and I there. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm a loud person. I talk a lot,
Yeah,
So,
the team probably got a lot done without us there yesterday.
Right.
Is my guess.
And Matt and Mackenzie just have a great relationship, and they're like it's so fun just to watch that, and Raina and just how the whole team just kind of plays off one another. So that's been fun. We all get a lot of work done, and I think you need that levity especially when you get together. And I will say it's more when we get together, but we laugh a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We laugh a lot, and it's not like the fake ha ha ha. I'm laughing because I have to be here and I'm going to try to have fun. Everyone is genuinely having fun. That's a great environment.
Yeah. You got to. I feel like you got to bring joy to any situation. And, as we're sort of talking about this stuff, like there are a lot of heavy conversations that we have with clients.
Yeah.
There's just like a lot of, and sometimes it's very money related and sometimes it's just very life circumstances of what they're going through. And so, for us to be able to, we care very much about that as a team, but for us to be able to enjoy each other's company as a team, I think that part is one of my favorites too. All right, so as we're getting to know Brandon Hatcher more, talk to me about what does Brandon do out when he's not working?
I'm probably chasing my kids around, and I think you understand this as much as I do. I try to be healthy with it because I've also listened to the podcast where you guys talked about how organized sports are really ruining the family dynamics. And
the irony that I coached two teams last season, and I think
it's just two though. It's not five, Right. That's the way I look at it. I mean, I run all the youth lacrosse in my area. So right now it's just rec because that's all I can handle. So I've had to say no to like more travel and higher level type stuff. So I like working with younger kids for now. The high school's asking me to help out, but again, saying no to some of those things, or maybe I'll just implement one piece because I know my personality is I'll spend a lot of time. I've coached in the past, so that's a lot of pressure on Katie and a lot of time away from the kids. So one of my favorite things about coaching is that I get to spend time with the kiddos. They're just at a young age where I can do that. My oldest is, I don't know if you saw the mug, but she goes to University of South Carolina. So my oldest is Ella, who, like you're Ella, but she's 10 years older. So she's 18 and a freshman at the South Carolina. So I don't spend as much time with her, but we try to go on like family vacations and get away. We're actually going to Disney here in a week. So we'll be spending some time there. My wife's a Disney adult. She, through marriage, has turned me at least into a Universal adult, Universal Studios. And I do enjoy Disney because it's kind of it's a known environment at this point. I kind of know what we're going to get into so that we can have a lot of fun versus like, I don't know where to go. And that's something when we went to Europe last year, we didn't know where we were going. So it was just exploring. And I found out that I am fine exploring. I walk fast. I don't care. I'll figure it out. I'll walk in a circle and I'll just end up back where I started. My family is like, well, where are we going? What are we doing? What is this? What is that? So something about Disney is nice because it's like we kind of know what we can do. So then everyone can just kind of have fun. There's none of that like mystery of like, how do we get from A to B and all that stuff. So it was both are fun. So we like to travel, like to get out and create memories. So, and then when I'm not doing that, you'll probably find me around the house doing some kind of home improvement project. I like working with my hands. I like the smell of sawdust. And I think there's something fun about like being able to like ka-chunk and now you've built something and, that's cool for me. So that's a little bit about me. I work out once in a while too.
Didn't you also coach T-ball too?
I did, yeah. So I coached, my son was in coach pitch. So we coached that. And then I was the head coach last year for T-ball, which why they would put me as a head coach, I don't know. Same thing with flag football, head coach there,
I think you were
assistant
probably
coach.
voluntold.
Yeah, I was. They didn't have enough people, so I got voluntold. And much like you, probably, right?
No, I really want. I mean, I've been voluntold for those things before, but this past season, I actually very much pushed to get in. In fact, there were only 4 teams, and they had 4 coaches already, and I was appalled, and that was just not an okay answer for me. And so I was like, well, let's get more people to sign up, and then I'll be the 5th team. And they're like,
Ah,
that's not going to happen. We can't do odd teams, and then they had too many people sign up, so they had no
there you
choice
go.
but to make a 5th team. So I kind of pushed my way into it, mostly because the season before was so magical that I was like, I just want to keep doing that. This season was a little bit tougher, but the things that we do for our kids. My logic always was with the sports stuff. I'm like, I'm gonna be there anyway.
Right. You might as well coach.
Like, and it's not like I'm
Yeah,
going to drop them off and leave and come back in an hour or 90
sure.
minutes. Like, I'm going to be there. So if I'm going to be there, let me be involved. Although I'm curious your opinion of this. I did it because I was like, oh, I want to be around my kids more. But then when I'm out there coaching, ironically, I'm not, because I'm coaching 10 other kids, not just my
Yeah.
own.
I don't know. I think it depends how engaged you are because when I've been on the sidelines, I'm not as engaged. So, when you're in the dugout with your kids, when you're helping them out, I will tell you this, I try not to coach my own son while I'm there, if
Mm,
that makes sense. Like I try to coach the other 9 kids and then have one of the other coaches coach my kid because that way they're getting support from me and I can be dad and they're getting coaching from other people, which I don't know. My kids are kind of stubborn. They listen to the other coaches more than me, even if it's what I'm telling them to. So,
yeah.
and then I try to work on that at home. I try not to be coach at home. I just try to be their champion. So
Yeah.
that's something I try to do with all my kids' sports. So whether it's lacrosse, football, baseball, whatever. The only one I'm probably not coaching is there's like a gymnastics gym, like a ninja slash gymnastics gym.
Oh,
I'm
yeah. Those are
probably not
cool.
going to coach that.
Yeah.
I can actually kind of do a handstand, so that's like a party trick.
That is a good party trick.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a trick. I just thought everyone knew how to do a handstand.
My one of my favorite party tricks that I can't do, but Jackie can juggle,
Ooh,
which I think is cool. It's a very like random skill,
yeah,
and you don't think it's gonna be hard, and then you try, and it's just so difficult to juggle.
it
And
is.
she can juggle, and I think it's the coolest thing when she does that, and all the kids, like we had kids over here a few weeks ago, and she did it, and they were like, "What?" Like their minds were blown.
Right,
But anyway, it's
that
always
is a
good to
good
have a party
trick.
trick.
I like
Yeah,
that one.
up your
That's
sleeve.
fun. I'm gonna ask Jackie to juggle for me.
Yeah, yeah. So as we're kind of wrapping up, but I want to go full circle back to what we originally talked about. I think actually I don't know if this will land us there or not, but you had made the comment to me at one point that "Start with Why" by Simon Sinek was a
Yeah,
influential book for you, and I was kind of curious if we could touch on that a little bit.
yeah. So I think Simon Sinek's TED Talk was shared with me, and I think that's how a lot of people find Simon is through
Mm-hmm.
his TED Talk. It's one of those pieces that I think I was at PNC at the time and I was going through some sort of training. And that was a start with why, because we were coming up with our own why. And I ended up buying the book, read it, also audiobooked it. So that's how I listen to a lot of books is I try to read as well, but sometimes listening is just fits my lifestyle a little bit better. And I try to live by that principle, start with why. So Simon in his book talks about how your why is so important. And he uses companies as examples who do that. And at the time, Apple was the big company. And I think this was 2011 when he wrote the book. So it was so different than anything else that was out there, which they're big, who they were going up against was mainly Microsoft. And Apple would show these cool commercials of just something happening and you don't even know what's going on. And then lo and behold, it's a computer commercial, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus the opposite of why, what, how. The how would be shared with, we got the best computers that do the most things and da 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 da. And then finally they would say, so you can get your work done. Whereas it was flipped with companies like Apple. So I've always thought of that as your core. It's like, what is your why? And you hear that a lot with people. They'll say, what is your why? But let's really dive into your why determines the what and the how even. So, and if we look at our brains, if you dissect them, and you should really just go out and check out the TED Talk. And if you like the TED Talk, go check out his book. But start with why is important because it really is at the core of our brains as human beings, as the why behind anything. The purpose is put another way behind anything. What is your mission? What is your purpose? What is your why? It's very influential. And I've used that throughout. And I think that's why I start with when I talk to people. I'm trying to uncover their whys. I'm trying to uncover their purpose. I'll ask them what was growing up like for them because that tells me more about them, right? It tells me what is important to them at a deep, deep level. And I tried to, lean into that with them because it's something that I think even as people, as busy people, as productive people, we don't, it's hard for us. It's even hard for me until I do exercises where I have to actively think about my why. So I use that time to talk to clients about as much as I can.
I think you're right. I mean, I think it's at the core of the work that we do for people. And you think about having these money conversations with folks and well, what's it all for? Like we're building and we're saving and we're growing and we're pursuing and more and more and more. Like I always think about, I always call it like the accumulation phase of life. It's that life, the part of life where you're doing all the stuff to lead up to eventually having this pile of money that you're going to spend from and then retire. But one of the challenging things is that I think your identity gets very much wrapped in either the pursuit of those things or your profession. It becomes kind of who you are. Like I'm good at operating in my role or as a leader at my company and so on and so forth. And then you retire. Mm-hmm. And then what? You solved the monetary problem because you were able to save enough and hopefully do all the right planning and work with somebody that knows what they're doing to help advise you there. But if you don't have that why in retirement, you're potentially going to be awfully bored pretty quick. I see that. I've seen that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you have as well.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, if you think about it, when people ask like, "Hey, John, what do you do?" We always say, "Well, I am financial planner. I am business owner. I am," and it has something to do with our profession. Not I am a human being who tries to bring out the best in others, right? It's never something like that. And so it's kind of embedded into us. So I've seen that a lot with clients, and moreover, I've seen the good too. I think I need to point that out is I've been inspired by people who have found ways to have an awesome retirement. And I love those conversations. In fact, I've changed what I want in life based on these conversations. I want, when my kids have children, so when I have grandbabies, if they move somewhere, whoever has the most, I might be moving to that area to go help raise the kids. That's just something I've already discovered at 38 with young kids, and I guess I have an older one, so she might be doing that. We'll give it some time. I would need all the kids out of the house in order to even make that decision. But yeah, so it's good. But on the flip side too, we've have those clients that they retire and it's like, well, now what? Mm-hmm. And they don't have a good routine for activeness that, both mental and physical. I think it's important to have a structure and actually plan that out. It's okay to say, I'm going to wake up every day at this time to do this thing. And we need to have that. And if you have grandchildren, I would say if you can, and you're able to, I would say just watching them, even if they don't need watching. Hey, it's my day with my kid, the grandkids, whether you go there or they come to your house or you pick them up from school, whatever. It's having that structure. I go to the YMCA and I work out at 6:00 in the morning, or I have my groups. I think this is very important. We're all community focused. I go to my Bible study at this time, or I go to my workout group at this time. Whatever it is, I think it's important to have those things. Because I think we all know I think you use this example. Once you've gone on vacation, watched the TV shows and built a garden. Now what? You go back to work,
Yeah.
And I would say men typically have this challenge more so than women, but definitely it could be different. It just seems like we work so hard. If we don't have the next thing,
Mm-hmm.
it can be very challenging going into retirement. And if you want to get a part-time job, nothing wrong with that. But I would say, let's know that about yourself so we can plan that out. And I call it the dimmer switch to retirement. Like, let's soft retire at 60, see what that feels like. Like, start
Mm-hmm.
to really uncover some of those hobbies that you want to get into, or maybe it's coaching. Someone like you and I, maybe we coach. I jokingly say I would love to be a wood shop teacher, like a really terrible wood shop teacher at a high school, where I don't know how to build anything, but I just show up and have fun.
If that's still a class in high school, is that even a class anymore?
I don't know. I'll make it one.
It should be. It'll come back around for sure.
Yeah, we
It
all need to work with
definitely
our
should.
hands. So
That's awesome. I joke with my buddy Josh, who he and I coach together. Our boys are good friends. They're in class together. And I was like, dude, wouldn't it be the dream if our kids grow up and we all kind of live in the same area still, and our kids have kids, and they're like, hey, Dad, we're just too busy with work right now. Like, we want to be involved, but would you guys be the head coaches of the,
Oh,
and like I was like, what, imagine if we got to do it all over again, like
yeah.
coach together again, but as grandparents to our grandkids instead of as parents to our kids.
I love that. Can I tell you a quick story about that? Though?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had two coaches, Coach Joe and Coach Matt. Both of their dads were coaches on our team.
Oh, I love that.
So it was Coach Papa and Coach Grandpa,
yeah.
and their grandkids were on the team, and it was I actually pointed this out at the end of the season. I said, hey, look around. We have all dads and grandparents and moms, and we didn't have a grandma on the team, but these are our coaches. I love coaching, and one day I think it would be really cool if I got to coach your kids. So I did point that out because I think it's worth like at least inspiring the next generation to want that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean these conversations help me identify my purpose as I get older, cuz I just love my kids, and I if they have kids, I know I want to be around them. And it's been very fun to watch our clients who are grandparents I mean, I hear these just heartfelt stories, and you can see the joy in their eyes. You can see the happiness when their grandkids are coming to visit, or when they're telling, hey, I'm going to Colorado next month and we're going to spend 2 weeks with our grandkids and our kids. And you see that joy and you're like, man, that's awesome. That feels good. And I like what you said about, I'm going to start using that as my answer when someone asks what you do. I'm just going to say, just a human trying to help other people be better. I like that. I like that answer, as opposed to, oh, I'm a CFP. And I always hear about, like, what's your elevator pitch when someone asks you that. And it's always just about what you do for a living, which is, rightfully so, a big part of everybody's identity. But I think what we're talking about, and in the spirit of last month's podcast where I was talking about, like, to retirement versus through retirement, we were using that in the vernacular of, like, from a money standpoint, but that is also about your identity and who you are and what your passion is and what your why is, and not being so all consumed in your career and your vocation. I think that's important. You also mentioned community, which I think a lot of people lost when COVID happened. I mean, I know that's already 5 years ago now, but
Holy cow.
I think that, yeah, I know. But, like, I mean, I remember how much that affected me. I remember watching that and how that affected retirees. And you're right. Community is, whether it's your coaching community or your church or a men's group or whatever it is, to be involved in that, I think that helps a lot of people, finding their why.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like your money doesn't retire, as you talked about last week, neither does our why. Our purpose doesn't retire. So we need to instill that from as early as possible. And John, I don't exactly know what that means as a financial advisor, but right now I'm just having really fun conversations talking with people who've helped others unlock it or have unlocked it for themselves, and just trying to bottle that up and create batches of it for those who want to take that on. And selfishly, I do think that how would be better for me too. It's like, I think it's fun working with clients who are more joyful. I think it's more rewarding when you can say, hey, we've saved you $10,000 a year in taxes, so now you can go do X, Y, or Z, and you almost live through those smiles and create that joy for them. Chasing that. And when you have purpose in your life, we're all going to have challenges, right? Everything there. I don't know of a day that doesn't have challenge. So could you imagine a year with challenges, especially as you get older? There's always health challenges, but with people who have purpose, those challenges don't become tragedies. They just become obstacles, something else to tackle in their greater purpose. And that's what I want to help people with, is helping to redefine and reinvigorate and help people with their purpose as well. And everything falls into place when you have that at the top, because then you want to become a better financial advisor. You really want to understand taxes better. You want to understand estate planning. You want to understand what's going to give people the best return on investment. Where are the best times to buy and sell? What does the cost look like? What are we pushing that? Are we asking the right questions? It motivates myself to do all the right things. And then even from that point of view, you have to exist. So from a health point of view, what am I reading? How am I exercising? What kind of things am I putting into my body? Because I need to be here for all those that are important to me, whether it's my children and my family, which I think comes natural to some people. But for me, it's also my clients, people who depend on me. I need to also be healthy and a better version of myself tomorrow, because my purpose is helping them unlock their purpose.
I think your quote is now the title of the podcast. Your purpose doesn't retire. That's fantastic. Did you just think of that, or have you been saying that before?
No, I just thought of it because you said last week your money doesn't retire, and I'm like, well, your purpose doesn't retire either.
That's so good. I love that.
We're just on the same wavelength, John. You and I.
We are. That's why we work well together.
Quick aside: if you ever get John and I talking, we'll just talk as the first 20 minutes of this podcast was us just having a conversation.
Well, I mean, that's the point of a podcast. We get to come on here and talk about things, and honestly, I think keeping it lighthearted and talking about kids and coaching and life stuff. I mean, those all have everything has a lesson wrapped up inside of it anyway, and so. Yeah. When we started this podcast, we kind of set out to say, yes, we're financial planners. It's what we all do for a living here. So that's going to be a lot of influence of conversation, but it doesn't need to be all of it. And that's the goal of this podcast, is for it not to be solely on that. Brandon, as we're wrapping up today, any parting words of wisdom or final thoughts that you want to leave our audience with? Maybe give them a teaser for the next time you'll come on the podcast. I don't know, anything you want to share. Open floor.
Yeah, well, I would say this. If you're just listening to this, before you start scrolling to the next thing, before you start listening to the next podcast, before you listen to the next piece of music or whatever it is you're going to do, I would say take a minute. That's all it's going to take. Take an idea that you've put on the shelf. Imagine your ideas. Sometimes you put them on a shelf and you let them sit there. So take it off the shelf, open it up, look at that idea, take a few minutes and take maybe if there was something thought-provoking, add to that idea, close it up, put it back on the shelf for a little bit. And just the next time you look at it, see what that idea has turned into. And I hope it's around your purpose. I hope it's around your why. I hope it's the thing that you can then use to make all those things better. And if you do that by starting with why, the rest of your life starts to fall into place. So that would be the parting words. And the next time we meet, hopefully your why is a little more developed. Hopefully you're a little better version of yourself. And I plan on being a better version of me the next time we jump on. So,
that's going to be the next podcast, is what was the thing that we dusted off that shelf and worked on a little bit. For me, it'll be going into my Evernote folder, which I think only you and I on this planet even know what Evernote is. That's such an elder millennial thing to have, I suppose.
love my Evernote.
Oh, me too. I love my Evernote. And the problem is they got me because like all the stuff's in there, and it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, what am I going to transfer this somewhere else now? But I'm going to go in there. I'm going to dust off some old files,
Yep.
and that'll be our next conversation. I
You
like
know,
that.
you know what, John? I'm going to go into my Evernote too, and I'm going to look at my why before I move to South Carolina, and I'm going to look at that and see how it's changed and how it's evolved and all that. So, good
Well, that's
point.
beautiful. I love it. Brandon Hatcher, well done. Thank you for joining us on the Above Board podcast. I knew it was going to be a fun one. Brandon and I always have good conversations, and so it was a joyful one for me, and certainly it was the first but not the last one. So excited to have you on the show again, my friend, pretty soon here.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me on, John.
You got it. And as always, thank you, the listeners, for tuning in to the Above Board podcast. We love these conversations. We love you, the listener. If you prefer to watch conversations like this instead of just listening to them, head over to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our show. You can find us at CandorPath or search the Above Board podcast on YouTube. Thank you all for listening to the show, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.